Hi everyone, Elsie Jensen here. Today we are going to make some chicken quesadillas, guacamole, and we're going to make some blueberry lemon mini loaves. So we're going to start by getting our yellow onion kind of sauteed up because we're going to make a couple of the chicken quesadillas with some fajita veggies in, which is what I love. But we're kind of doing simple here because remember, we're going out of town. So I am slowly trying to cook up all the fresh produce in my fridges so that we leave nothing in the house because, 2 weeks is a long time and you come back, you don't want to deal with that. So we're just going to do some long strips on here and then I'm going to start sauteing them in my pan over here. I should probably open up my oil. We're going to just put in about, I want to say like a tablespoon of olive oil in there. And then we'll throw these guys in. And then I'm going to just prep my pepper, and we'll add our pepper in a little bit, but I want my onions to saute up nicely first. I'm going to pop my little stem out here so I don't have to waste any of my pepper. And then we're going to debeard it, get these seeds out. Okay. And I'm just going to do again because we're going to do like a fajita style veggie. So I'm just going to do some little strips on them. That way they'll go nicely in our quesadillas. And we're going to use some shredded chicken. I've got some good old shredded chicken from Costco. You know how you can buy those like 2.5 pound packs. So I have some of that. And we're going to season it up and make just a really simple, easy lunch today. And then we're going to make some blueberry lemon loaves because I have like 3 packs of blueberries in my fridge I've got to use up before. They always are like hiding somewhere. Let me give these a quick toss. And then I'm just going to kind of break them apart so that they don't kind of clump up, and that way they can all start sauteing. Okay. Let me give my hands a quick wash so I don't have any onion flavors going over into my blueberry mini loaves. Okay, we're going to start on our mini loaves here. We're going to do a blueberry lemon mini loaf. So we're going to start with our wet ingredients. We're going to use a 1/2 cup of sourdough discard. There we go. I'm going to add this in here. Use my spatula to scrape so none of it goes to waste. There we go. Put this up over here. Yesterday I knocked over my olive oil, and I keep saying I'm going to knock over my starter one day, and then that will be no fun. So we got a 1/2 cup of our starter in here, and now we're going to add in 1 stick of melted butter, which is a 1/2 cup of melted butter. Shake it all in there. And then we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of cream. Let me see if I can see.
You have a question? If you don't have sourdough discard, is there anything you can substitute, or is it a different recipe?
You kind of have to use a different recipe, but it's not that hard to kind of adapt it out a little bit. The sourdough discard takes the place of like liquid and flour, so it's kind of hard to replace it without getting the exact consistency right. So I would just try a different recipes. I think when we come back from our camping trip, I feel like a lot of people are interested in recipes without discard. I might go on and adapt and figure out some ways for that as well. But sourdough discard or starters are really easy to make. And if you really like sourdough bread, I really encourage you to try it out. I just posted a video of my sourdough starter journey and how to make it from scratch. And it's just, a week of feeding it, but then you'll have great starter to make breads and discard to make yummy recipes.
Just 8 5-minute videos.
Yeah, there's just 8 5-minute videos, and it's just one a day. So again, it's not that hard, and the discard has so many good gut health benefits for you, and it adds just a nice moisture to it as well. Okay, so we've got our cream, our butter, and our sourdough discard in there. Now we're going to add in a 3/4 cup of sour cream, which I am glad because that means this sour cream will be almost gone before we leave on our trip too. So I'm just going to eyeball what I think 3/4 of a cup is going to look like. And I will say this recipe is pretty forgiving if you are a little over or a little under. And then we're going to add in 2 eggs. Ooh, that was weird. I did like a half crack on each one. So 1 and 2. And then I'm going to mix this up, and I'm going to mix it until that sour cream is mixed in. Sour cream, when you mix it in, it loves to kind of like get curdy. So I'm just going to mix it until it's fairly smooth, because I can do the good mixing now, but once we add in the flour, we really want to minimize the amount of mixing we do so we end with a nice fluffy mini loaf. Okay. There we go. Just going to break up any of those big sourdough clumps. Perfect. And now I'm just going to take a quick pause, and we're going to go over here to our onions that we have cooking. I'm going to give them a toss. There we go. I'll let those start sauteing for a little bit more, and then we'll add our peppers in. Okay, now we're going to add in our lemon zest and then our lemon juice. So I'm going to use this big one. And essentially, you just need juice from 1 lemon and the zest of 1 lemon. And this is going to give you a really great lemon flavor. The zest really brings out that lemon flavor in these mini loaves. The juice gives you a little bit of it, but the zest is really where it's coming from.
You have a question? Any dinner ideas yet?
I'm not 100% sure. We'll be doing a little bit earlier dinner tonight because my son has a doubleheader basketball game, but it's not quite a doubleheader. One's at 6:30 and one's at 8:30. So it's kind of like, oh, you get one done and then you've got a 45 minutes to figure out between. So we're going to do an earlier dinner, and then I think we're going to go to get some ice cream between games. But I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm still planning. I'm really trying really hard to use up everything in my fridge. So I'm getting really creative with things. So we'll have to see. I did see some big portobello mushrooms, so I might do a stuffed mushroom for dinner. I'm not 100% sure yet. Okay. So we've got about our zest from 1 lemon, which is going to be about a tablespoon when it's all said and done. And now I'm going to cut my lemon in half, and we're going to juice it and put it right in there. There we go. So if you see any big seeds, just take them out now. Of course, they pop up as soon as I start juicing, because you just don't want any seeds to go into. Oh my goodness, this is these seeds keep popping up, and then there we go. I got most of them. I see one I'm gonna have to fish out, because you know what happens is you get it, and then one of my kids will be eating these, and they'll get a seed, and then they'll be like, "Oh, you tried to kill me." There we go, another little seed. At least it's not so bad. I had 1 lemon, which was the seediest lemon. I think I counted, like, it had 31 seeds in it. And I was just like, this whole lemon is just seeds. There we go. We've got 1 right here. And then 1 right there. There we go. So we got our juice from our whole lemon. I'm going to wash this with my hands real quick. We'll mix that in, but our onions are ready for a turn, and then we're going to throw in our peppers. Man overboard. I'm going to turn this down a little bit lower, and then let's add these guys in, because we're going to saute these up first, and then we'll move them out, and then we're going to do our chicken. Get these guys cooking. There we go. Stir them up, but I always like to cook my onions a little bit longer just to bring out their natural kind of sweetness in it and just bring out their flavors a little bit better. Okay, let's mix in our lemon juice and our lemon zest. There we go. And then I'm going to add in my baking powder. I'm going to add in 4 teaspoons of baking powder. So when I add this, this will actually start kind of reacting with the lemon juice, and it will make my batter get pretty fluffy. 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to add in a teaspoon of salt. Break up that little clump. There we go. We're going to mix this up, and then we'll add in a cup of sugar, and then we'll add in our flours. But I'm going to make sure I get this baking powder all mixed up in there, and it will start to get fluffier and kind of grow in size. That's just that kind of chemical reaction between the lemon juice and the baking powder. So that's what's going to give our mini loaves a nice rise. There we go. And now we're going to add in a cup of sugar. We're going to mix this up nice. And then we'll add in our 2 cups of flour. And we're going to just gently mix those in so that we can have a nice fluffy not quite pancake, but a nice fluffy muffin mini loaf. Here we go. And now our 2 cups of flour. So we're going to mix it, but we're going to mix it partially. Then we're going to add in our blueberries, and then we'll mix it until we don't really see the flour anymore. So we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So we've got 1 and 2. We're going to give this a nice starting mix. Again, you're going to want to use just a spoon or a rubber spatula. Avoid using the hand mixer because you're going to over mix with that, and that will give you a stiffer mini loaf, and you want a nice, really light and fluffy one. So we're going to mix it here until it's just barely mixed. We'll still see a little bit of flour, and then we're going to add in our blueberries, and we'll fold those kind of in. There we go. I'm going to give my peppers here a little stir. My peppers and my onions. I'm just trying to get a good little kind of char on them, just like fajita veggies are. Okay. And now we're going to add in our blueberries. This is probably close to 1.5 cups of blueberries here. Add them in. And then we're going to fold them into our batter. If you don't know what folding is, it's literally like scooping over and then putting the layer of batter on top. So I know it's one of those things where it's not truly a fold, but there we go. It just helps you from over mixing your mixture. There we go. So do a couple more. Perfect. So here is our beautiful lemon blueberry mini loaves. You could also do these as muffins if you wanted to. You just do them in a muffin tin. I'm doing mine in a mini loaf pan because mini loaves are the best. We're going to grease it up so that they come out nice. There we go. And then we're going to spoon this in, each one. And we're going to try to have it equal, each one be as equal as possible.
I have a question. When do you leave for camping?
We are going to leave Sunday afternoon. My daughter right now, my oldest daughter, is in Florida with friends. And they are going to leave Florida at 5 a.m. Sunday to drive here. And as soon as she gets here, we are getting in the car and we are driving to Michigan for our first campsite. So she's going to have such a wonderful day. But that's just how her friend's family trip, coincided with ours. And I said, we'll make it work. So it will be a long day in the car for her, but we'll probably do a brunch, maybe do a brunch stream right before we leave. Cook up our last little bit of ingredients and get our house in order. And then we'll head out. We'll be gone on our trip for 2 weeks. Excited. We are going to try to stream at our meals at the campground and whatnot. And we'll post little videos of our adventures in the national parks and national forests. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love camping trips. It just reminds me of my vacations as a little girl. My mom with her 7 kids. It was just the 8 of us. We had this big van and we'd go on these big 2-week camping trips to the national parks. And so I'm trying to recreate that with my kids and really let them appreciate the natural beauty of our country. Because there are so many great places, great hikes, great things to do, get kids off electronics, you know. Okay, we've got our muffins in. And then, let me grab my little sugar here. We're gonna just brush the tops of these with a little bit of cream and then sprinkle with sugar, but I'm gonna give these, of course, a little stir because they're almost done with that part. So let's give this a little shake first to kind of bring them down, kind of evens them out a little bit. And then we can use, I'll get my pastry brush here. This is just what we had our melted butter and our cream in. So I'm just gonna pour a little bit in here. We're gonna brush the tops of each of our loaves with the cream, and then we're gonna sprinkle a little bit of sugar over it. This is gonna give it a nice kind of a light golden brown color because blueberry lemon loaves is a pretty pale loaf. So this gives it a little bit of a golden brown color. There we go. Brush it off. And then we're going to sprinkle it with just a little bit of sugar. Probably, probably use less than a tablespoon for this. I'm just going to pinch it and sprinkle it over.
You have a question. Are the doggies going with you?
They are not. They're actually going to be staying with a friend of mine. As much as I want to bring them on, there's some places that don't allow dogs, and you just don't want to be stuck in a place where you can't do something or have to keep them in the car with the windows down. So they're not going to be going with us, unfortunately, but they will be at my friend's and they'll have a lot of fun because she has some dogs, and so they'll be at their doggy vacation. Okay, let's pop these in the oven. I have my oven preset to 400 degrees, and we are going to bake these for about 19 minutes. They take just a smidge longer than muffins because they're a little bit bigger than muffins, but they don't take as long as a big loaf pan. So got my timer. Let's do perfect. Now let's finish up the rest of lunch here. I'm going to grab a little bowl to put my fajita veggies on, and then we're going to start with the base of our kind of sauce for our chicken to kind of cook in. So I'm going to stir these up. I'm going to turn it down nice and low, but you see how we've got that nice little kind of char on them, like you see when you get like those skillet veggies in fajitas. It just adds a little extra flavor. We're going to put them in here because we will be adding these back to our quesadillas, so they'll get rewarmed. So it's, instead of using 2 pans, you can just use 1 and just do it in stages, less dishes. Okay. We're going to add in just a smidge more oil. And then I'm going to got it down nice and low. We're going to add in some garlic here. I'll grab a spoon. I'm going to say like a teaspoon of garlic. You don't need much, but it will add a lovely flavor. I'm going to let it sizzle up. It's nice and hot. There we go. And then I've got some tomato paste right here. We're going to add in about a tablespoon of tomato paste. We're going to let it kind of really bring out the flavors, maybe a little more. It'll do probably closer to a tablespoon and a half. Good little squeeze. We're going to let this kind of start to saute up. We're going to add a little bit of broth to it in just a second, but we really want that kind of rich flavor to come out. Got nice and low. We're going to add some seasonings, and then we'll add the broth in, but this will allow those kind of seasonings to get a bit more flavor. So we're going to add in a little bit of onion powder, about, I'm going to say like a half a tablespoon. I've got some Mexican Fiesta seasoning. We're going to add in about a half a tablespoon. It's pretty mild, so it's not super spicy.
It says Fiesta, not Fajita.
Fiesta.
It does. Oh.
I read it. I know.
You have dyslexia.
I do have dyslexia, and I do misread all the time. The best time ever was when I had my first kid, and my daughter was going to a home daycare because I was still working at the time. And I sent my husband the address to pick them up. And it was, or to drop her off. And it was like drop off at like 6:45 in the morning. So it was a really early time. And I added in a half a tablespoon of paprika. We're going to just kind of make this little herby paste here. And I sent it, and I don't even know what the numbers were, but I sent him the wrong numbers on there. And luckily, this house did not exist, because otherwise he would have been going to somebody's house at like 6 in the morning. But he kept calling me. He's like, it doesn't. What is the number? And I'm like, it is this number. This is where it is. Trust me, I've been there 100 times. This is where you do it. Lo and behold, I had mixed the numbers up. He eventually found the right one. No thanks to me. And now he's always like, read them each individual number with me at a time. So I added in a half a tablespoon of paprika, and now we're going to do a smidge of chipotle chili powder. This does have a little bit of a kick, so I'm only going to add in about 1/4 of a teaspoon because I don't want it to be too hot. Now we've got this kind of nice little paste forming here, and I'm letting it heat up with that oil, so it's going to bring out the flavor. But then we're going to slowly add in some water and kind of mix it up. And as you see, it's going to thicken up and get a little bit thicker here. We're going to do a little bit at a time. And this is going to kind of make our lovely kind of seasoned flavor, broth flavor for our chicken to stew in. Here we go. This will give the chicken a lot of flavor. It's almost like a mole. There we go. So that when you just rehydrate that chicken paste, it becomes kind of really silky smooth, but I do like to saute it up with the spices for just a second. It really enhances the flavors out a bit more. Here we go. And then before it gets too much, I'm going to add in a smidge of chicken bouillon here. This is going to add a little bit of a saltiness to it, about a teaspoon of it.
I have a question. Have you ever made mole before?
I have made mole before. I haven't done it in a while, and I like it. I will say, my husband, when they had it, it wasn't their favorite. But so it's one of those things. I'm getting to branch out more and getting them to try more things. You know, I feel like when they were younger, they were a lot more stubborn, but my older kids are getting a lot better about giving things a fair shot. And my younger ones, I think they're pretty good at it. It's honestly my middle child, my precious Evie. Love her to death, but she is stubborn, and she is the biggest food critic ever. It's like the second day in a row I've knocked this one over.
Real question: what is a mole?
It is a spice paste that you bend. A lot of times you can make it with chocolate or cocoa in it. I can make a sweet mole, but it's like a spice paste, typically used in I want to say South American foods, in like Native American foods as well. But it's delicious. It has a lot of flavor. But it's a big flavorful paste, and they have a lot of twists on it nowadays. Okay, we are going to add in. This is our rotisserie chicken that we got from Costco, so we're going to add it in here. I'm just breaking apart any of the really big pieces. There we go. I love this chicken because I can buy a big, the big pack, and it goes for like 1 to 2 meals. And when I do in the wintertime, when I make chicken pot pie, it's really great to do it. It just allows you to have nice, easy shredded chicken without the work. Okay, let's break it apart. We're going to let it kind of pick up the flavor. But I wanted my seasoning sauce not to be super runny or thick because it's going in a quesadilla, and you don't want a soupy sauce on here. You want it to kind of have a lot of flavor, but without a lot of liquid. Otherwise, your quesadilla will get a little bit like gummy or fall apart because it's soggy. So we're just going to break apart this chicken. Anytime you see a big one, just kind of fork it apart, or you could always give it a little chop before. I just don't want to have any huge pieces of the shredded chicken in my quesadilla. Otherwise, it will be kind of hard to eat. But just look at this. Looks so good. I'm going to break that apart. And then I'm just going to let this heat over really low to kind of warm it up. That will help melt the cheese in our quesadilla, but also really enhance the flavors in here. There we go. And a few more. I'm going to grab a small fork and taste it to see if I need to add any more spices to it. Let's see. Good. I think we are good. You can really, I will say, like that chili powder, the paprika, and that Mexican fiesta gives a really mild, nice blend. That's not overly spicy, but it has a lot of that flavor in it. I turn it up to about a 4. We're going to let that simmer. While we do, I'm going to turn on my skillet. We're going to have this start warming up. And let's start prepping our first set of tortillas for this. And then we're going to make our guacamole. Okay, a lot of times I make my own sourdough tortillas, but we had flour tortillas. And I was like, well, these will just make it easier. It's an easier thing to kind of whip together. Get this. Now I'm just going to spread a little bit of butter on one side. A little bit, I will say, a little bit of butter goes a really long way. It actually spreads really nicely on the tortillas because I think the tortillas have a nice little smooth, like the side. So it doesn't like, it's not like bread where it just like absorbs into it. It just slides over it, but it helps give you that kind of nice little crunchy crust on it.
Guacamole and mole?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's where guacamole gets it. Maybe a guac. And I don't know. I'll have to look in the etymology of that word and see where that came from. I mean, they literally have like what you make the guacamole in is like the same thing that you grind the mole powders in. So maybe it is. Maybe we've got some super smart people on this stream who know all along where it came from. All I know is guacamole is delicious. And, it's always funny thing. It's one of those words that my mom can never say correctly. And I don't know if it's because, like, she's like a Swedish immigrant. She moved to America when she was like 7 years old. And that was like 60 plus years ago. And because my grandfather was a nuclear physicist. And so they worked here at Caltech at Berkeley. But she always calls it guacamole. And then she calls calzones, calzones. And so she just has like all these little funny missayings. And I just think it's hilarious. And so every time I always like to say guacamole instead of guacamole. Okay, we've got these. I don't know if we'll need our second batch, but we do. We've got them. And let's see if our skillet over here is nice and getting hot. Yep. I like to warm it up. Whoop. Making a mess like usual. Okay, got my cheese here. I'm just using sharp cheddar cheese because I've got a big bag of it. And like I said, we're using up everything in our house. We've got putting our butter side down. I'm going to let's add my cheese first. Got to add the cheese first. I like to sandwich everything between the layers of cheese. So we're going to do a nice layer of cheese. Don't skimp.
You got a comment that someone likes your butter knife?
Oh, yes. So my best friend gave this to me. So my family's from Sweden. Her mom lives in Sweden. And so her mom sends her stuff all the time for me. And she sends this. And it's the best thing ever. Once you have a butter paddle, you will never go back to using a butter knife. It is the best thing ever. My kids, if it goes missing, they're like, what happened to the butter paddle? How am I supposed to spread butter on my bread? And I'm always like, well, you could use a knife. And they're like, it's not the same. And it isn't. It actually works so much better. And it just spreads the butter so smoothly.
Is it wooden?
This one is wooden, yes. I also have some plastic ones as well, but the wooden one is our favorite. Which I think the butter just keeps it naturally, like the fat in it. You know how you have to oil wood? It just naturally keeps it sealed. Okay, so we've got our fajita veggies down. Now we're putting on our shredded chicken. And then we're going to top it with another layer of cheese, because who doesn't like cheese? But you could really use any cheese that you love. I mean, quesadilla, I feel like, is one of those things that can be done in so many different ways. So we're going to let that kind of toast up. Just don't go super high on your skillet, because you'll end up like burning your tortilla before you're ready to flip it over and put it on there. So we're going to let that heat right there. I'm going to grab a cutting board so that when we're done with that first one, we can slide them out here to rest. I'm going to bring these guys over here because I've got a pineapple that I need to chop up for our lunch as well. And then there's that sad watermelon he's still good. I'm going to cut him up tonight, I promise. My husband's like, when are you going to cut this guy up? And I'm like, well, he's still holding on. He's still big and healthy. You know, watermelons are really great because they last forever. And I was going to cut him up at lunch today, but then I was like, this pineapple really needs to go. And that watermelon's so big and bulky, but we'll cut him up eventually. So we cut off for pineapples. The easy way to cut them off is you just behead them, cut off the top. You're going to cut off the bottom. And now you're going to have this nice, flat, easy surface to work with. It's nice and level. And then in the middle, you can see the little circle of the core. That's what I use as my guide. So I'm going to literally cut it in half and cut that core right through the middle. And then we're going to do it again, and we're going to cut it right through the middle. So now we have our little triangles here. And to take off the hard, crunchy part of the core, you're just going to turn your triangle into a trapezoid here. We're doing some geometry. You just take it off, and then you have great, delicious fruit for the rest. And then I always like to cut it one more time. And then I just take my blade and I follow it along the side to remove the skin. And then, voila, we've got pineapple chopped up in no time. Now, the only thing is, when you are getting close here, you want to give enough space that you don't get any of the seeds in your pineapple, because the seeds will turn your pineapple brown really fast. So I cut it fairly close and thin, but not so close where I'm picking up the other bits of it, the rinds, or where the seeds are. Okay, let me check on this real quick. Let me get my big spatula. Not yet. I like to take a peek. The first quesadilla takes the longest. Anytime you're waiting for your griddle to kind of heat up, it takes a little bit longer. We're going to move our corner here. Put it down. But I will say, I can get a whole pineapple for like about $3 from the grocery store. And it's just so much cheaper than buying it already pre-cut up. Pre-cut up, this whole thing would probably cost me like $12. So it's a steal, and it's really not that hard once you know how to do it. I think everyone looks at it and they're like, how in heck do I cut these things up? But once you top the bottom and the top off, then it's really not that hard. Plus, also, I will say, when you buy a pineapple from the store, it is rarely ever ready to be cut up that same day. It typically needs a couple of days of resting on the counter. And I typically wait until it starts to get really golden. When you buy them at the store, they typically start out really green. I don't cut them up until I start to see this gold coming up from the bottom. And that goldish brown, that's going to let me know that it's going to be nice and sweet and not firm and pale. Okay, Get these guys off.
Oh yeah, you need to try a pink pineapple.
I know, I have to find one. So here's what I was talking about, the seeds. You want to get these seeds out because they are going to turn your pineapple brown as soon as you cut it. They like oxidize really fast. You know how like bananas turn brown and apples turn brown? Just cut those little seed bits out and then you won't get brown patches. That's what I've kind of learned is if you leave them on there, and it's fine for things, but the very next day, anywhere where there's a seed, it will be all brown around it. So always just pick those out. Okay. Let's turn this guy up because he is going really slow today. This first one, I can see my cheese is nice and melted, but I want my brown to have that crispy little layer on it. So let's get this guy turned. Perfect. Smash them up, but see how our chicken here, it's moist, but it's not soaking wet. This will keep our tortillas nice and dry when we're doing it so they don't get like, soggy. Let me top this out, then we'll make our guacamole. Our guacamole mole. Here we go. So I've got some avocados. And let me grab a little knife and a spoon and a fork. Now I make a really, really simple guacamole. Mine, and this is just because my kids don't like as many vegetables in it, I just do avocado, lime juice, and garlic salt. Just wash the pineapple off of it. So we'll cut these guys. Oh my God. See, I always hate it when I get a big seed. I feel like I've been cheated out of my avocado.
Geraldine just sent you a gift.
Well, thank you, Geraldine. Let me flip this and then our blueberry mini loaves, I think. So with a fajita, you want a big spatula so you can flip it fast and get under here. So I've got this big guy, and if you compare it to the normal size, you see how much bigger he is? It's great for flipping. For my quesadillas. There's my dyslexia. I told you I say crazy things all the time. I'm not crazy, I swear. Maybe I am. Okay, let's go get our blueberry lemon loaves out. Okay. I hear ya. Look at our beautiful loaves. So I'm going to just give them a nice touch, see if they're nice and firm, and they are nice and firm at the top. That is the best way to tell if your muffins are done, especially with a pale muffin like a blueberry ones that use just white sugar instead of brown sugar. They don't get as brown, but you just touch, and as long as your finger doesn't sink in, you'll know that they're nice and ready. And you can also kind of see some of the little crater cracks of them. But these are our delicious blueberry lemon loaves. We'll make a glaze for those in just a second. But let's see how this guy is progressing. I said the second side is up and ready. Now look at this, how quickly it cooked up the second way. Perfect. So we've got our first quesadilla down. I'm going to turn my skillet down because remember, once your skillet gets hot, it is hot. So it is down. We're going to do our layer of cheese. And we're going to we'll do one without fajita veggies. We'll do back and forth. I love the fajita veggies. My parents love the fajita veggies. But my children and my husband do not. They just like it. Meat and cheese, meat and cheese. There we go. We don't need that big guy in there. We'll spread this out. Put our cheesy layer again on top. You've got to sandwich it in. Otherwise, your quesadillas won't stick together. So you can't just do cheese on one side. You got to double it up. There we go. Let's see. Perfect. Okay. We got our first one. Cut these guys down. Ooh. Smaller one. Yeah, I once tried to harvest, like an avocado seed, how you have to like keep it on like a wet paper towel forever to get it to grow. And I like started to have it grow, and I grew a shoot, and then I planted it, and then I proceeded to kill it by not watering it. But the funny thing is, then I had like a coworker, and she was like, I'm gonna plant this avocado seed one time. So she put it in a paper towel and left it, and then it got left in like a cupboard at work. And we came back and we found it like 6 months later. And it had like grown like a tree, like practically that big in the dark cabinet. And I'm just like sitting here. I try to grow it at home and I kill it, giving it all of my tender loving care. I abandoned one in the cabinet at work, and it seems to grow just fine. Just must not, must be doing too much to fiddle with them. They're actually apparently really difficult to grow or to get established. But once they're established, they are pretty hardy trees. There we go. But how cool would it be just to have your own avocado tree? You'd save yourself a lot of money. Okay, we've got our avocados in here. I need to check on my quesadilla because now it's going to go pretty fast. Okay. Pretty good. Minimal droppage. I'll slide this back over onto it.
What's your preference of cheese for French onion soup?
French onion soup, Gruyere is, I think, my favorite, but I know that's not always easy to find. You can get a Gruyere and Swiss cheese mix. Gouda is also really good, but I think Gruyere is your typical cheese that you put with it, and I absolutely love it on there because it holds its form when you bake it up in a container and with that crispy bread, but it has that sharpness that you get. So I would have to say that's my favorite. But I love cheese, so kind of. I forgot to pick my lime. Let me grab my lime here. There we go. So we've got our 3 avocados. We're going to squeeze the juice of 1 lime over this. Now this lime has 2 points. It's going to give you that nice acidity in here to kind of cut through the fattiness of the avocado, and it's also going to prevent it from going brown. And fresh lime juice. It's got to be fresh lime juice. So we have our fresh lime juice, and then we're going to sprinkle on our garlic salt. A nice little good shake. And then I always use a fork to mash it up because I think it works better. I do have one of those big, mortar pestles that are meant for mashing up guacamole, but mine's not seasoned, and so therefore the guacamole just gets in the cracks. And it also weighs like 20 pounds. So I never use it, but I sit there. I won't get rid of it. But we've got our just really simple avocado and lime juice and garlic salt. And I think it just makes the best. And you got to use garlic salt because regular salt just doesn't give you that full savory flavor. Okay, this one is looking good. Let me get over this guy. He's pretty heavy. There we go. We've got quesadilla number 2 out. Look, he is overflowing. He is looking yummy. I love to dip my quesadillas in guacamole. That's why we're having it with it. It's really the best. And here we go. We've got it on. I'll do fajita veggies in this one. And then we're going to finish up our guacamole here. And then I can plate up our first plate for you guys. There we go. And yeah, and we got to make our little glaze for our blueberry and lemon loaves.
Does the family like salsa as well?
Some of them like salsa and some of them don't. They like pico. I will say Evie, who is my biggest food critic, loves like a pico de gallo salsa. She loves tomatoes any way you do have them. And so she absolutely loves it. I love it. My husband and I love it. I'm trying to get my other kids to do it. I will say Jackie, he likes it. And Teddy sometimes likes it. I think he's there. But my older 2, they won't touch it. And I'm like, it's so good. It's so good. Okay. Wow. Let me get this smashed up. Then we got to make our glaze for our blueberry lemon loaves. We're going to do a lemon blueberry glaze. I have some blueberry powder that will go delicious with that. Okay. Just want to make sure we get any big chunks out. But here, super simple, easy, but perfect for dipping a quesadilla in. Now you can always add in onions and peppers and tomatoes and cilantro if you want to, but I like to keep it simple. Okay. You throw these right here and let's rinse this out. This is what we had our blueberries in. We're going to use this to make our glaze. So I've got a lemon here. We're going to do a little bit of lemon zest in our glaze. This is going to give a little bit of a sharper, like a lemon flavor. And then we're going to add in some lemon juice. My Evie will be happy because I'm only going to use half a lemon on this. And she loves to eat lemons straight up. So she'll have a half a lemon to eat. We're going to add in our lemon juice. And then we'll add a little bit of cream, but we're going to mix the lemon juice with the sugar and the blueberry powder first so that the cream doesn't curdle. There we go. So we've got our lemon zest and our lemon juice in here. Try to slide this over. Never use this spatula. And then I've got my blueberry powder, which is just freeze-dried blueberries that have been powderized. So this will give it a nice kind of a pinkish flavor or color to it, but a light, subtle blueberry flavor. We're gonna add just a tablespoon because a little goes a long way. And this is gonna give it a little bit of a silky texture. So we're gonna mix it up. And then we're gonna add in our powdered sugar. I wanna just make sure I've got all that powder kind of mixed up and rehydrated. Let's check out our quesadilla here. Still needs a minute or two. And now we're gonna start with powdered sugar. We're gonna add a little bit of powdered sugar now, then we're gonna add a little bit of cream, but you always wanna wait until after you've added the powdered sugar to do the cream if you're using something acidic like lemon juice, because lemon juice will curdle cream. So we're gonna start with a half a cup of powdered sugar, and powdered sugar dissolves really thinly. I will say it disappears. So don't use too much liquid to begin with. Otherwise, you won't get you'll end up using a lot more powdered sugar than you need. There we go. So we got our first mix in. Now I'm going to add just a little bit of cream, like a half a tablespoon. Because this cuts through, it makes it a creamier glaze that kind of cleans it, but it also makes it to where the lemon isn't so strong and gives it a smoother texture. And now we're going to add the other half of our powdered sugar. That wasn't quite a half a cup, but we'll see if we need to add any more. And you're essentially looking for the texture of Elmer's glue is what I always say. That's the texture I want with my glaze. There we go. And then we're going to check on our quesadilla. I have it down pretty low, so we should be. Look at that nice golden brown. I'm going to turn it up a smidge. You want to go low and slow with the quesadilla so you're getting your cheese melted all the way through. We are using warm chicken with it, which helps that melting, but nothing is worse than if you get a half melted quesadilla. Okay. Look at this beautiful glaze. You have it nice. And we're going to drizzle this over our lemon loaves and our lemon blueberry loaves. Let me grab a spoon for this. I'm going to turn my chicken down over here. There we go. Okay. We'll let that cook. So here we've got our sourdough discard lemon blueberry loaves that we have lemon zest and juice from a whole lemon in it. And then we added 2 cups of fresh blueberries. And now we're going to drizzle a lemon blueberry glaze over it using a freeze-dried blueberry powder, lemon juice, lemon zest, and cream and powdered sugar. And this is going to give it a little extra zing on top of our loaves, as well as just they're really pretty looking, the kind of the color for it, but it's so delicious. There we go. I always like to kind of drizzle them in here because then when I take them out, all that extra drizzle will be on my pan and not all over my loaf, but it gives it perfect. Now, one more. I'll add it on. Also, Teddy absolutely loves to eat this delicious glaze. So it's his favorite thing to eat.
You have a question? Where did you find the blueberry powder?
I actually found them on Amazon. I added them to my Amazon storefront. It's in my like baking essential areas, I believe, or my one of those things. But I absolutely love them. I have the butterfly pea, I have raspberry and dragon fruit. They add like great flavor, and you can do them to glazes, you can do them to sourdoughs, you can do them to all sorts of things, but they are delicious. Okay, guys. Let's plate up our lunch today. So let me grab, I got a spoon for this. Let me grab my knife so I can cut my quesadilla. Where did my knife go? We'll just grab another one since they always seem to disappear. It's literally right in front of me. Cut off that, wipe off that lime juice. But here, so we've got, look at this beautiful quesadilla with chicken, cheese, and our fajita veggies. So we'll stack this here on our plate. We've got our delicious on our tortilla, and then you're gonna dip it with our guacamole, and that's one of my favorite things to do. And we're gonna serve it with our fresh pineapple, because you gotta have fresh pineapple. And then of course, we'll pop one of these out. I can show you guys what it looks like on the inside if it's gonna come out. Our beautiful, look at this, our beautiful lemon blueberry loaf. Just look how fresh and amazing and delicious that is. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that link, search for what we cooked, and cook along with me again at home.
You got a real quick question. That powder, can you add it to cake batter?
Yes, you can add it to cake batter, pretty much anything. I've done it to sourdough loaf stuffing. We also have our Amazon storefront. So actually our powder and everything is in our Amazon storefront if you want to check it out. The link is on our profile page. We do make a small commission if you buy anything, but again, that just helps us out. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.